fight for our freedom and won't stop until we have it all. The Revolutionary War is about the American breakaway from the British so we can have our own freedom and our own nation. The 56 colonial delegates met at the First Continental Congress in Philadelphia to discuss the crisis in Massachusetts. They discussed how to prepare for the war between the British and the colonists. Before the Battle of Lexington, the British had the idea to take the colonists' weapons, but the colonists were one step ahead of them and already had them hit. Then in 1775, they took action and the war would start. The first shot was fired in Lexington in 1775. This battle was over in just minutes, but the war had just begun. After this, the conquered battle started and the British started fires and marched away. In 1775, representatives of 12 of the 13 colonies met in Philadelphia for the Second Continental Congress. They decided not to break away, but they fought for their rights. Then they made an olive branch petition, and it was rejected by the king, so Washington got his troops ready to fight. One of the first battles was Fort Ticonderoga. They captured the leader and took over. After the battle, the British went to Boston and held them under siege. So shortly after the Battle of Bunker Hill, where they had the siege, Washington knew he needed newer guns, so he hired people to run them. Then Thomas Paine wrote a pamphlet named Common Sense, which argued for the breakaway from Great Britain. Around 500,000 copies were bought by colonists. Common Sense was so popular because it was written so that everyone could read it. Common Sense made the colonists want to make their independence a reality, and they did by making the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence defined what the colonists believed were their rights. It was based off the natural rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. After the Declaration of Independence was signed, the colonists had to choose a side. They could choose to be a patriot that fights for the U.S. or a loyalist that fights for Britain. This caused many families to break apart. However, the Declaration didn't include many colonists. The women were excluded from the document, but did not make a fuss about it. African Americans were excluded from the Declaration also, but some protest that they should be a part of it. There were also many advantages and disadvantages to the colonists. One advantage was that they did not have to ship their supplies across the ocean. A disadvantage was that they had to train their soldiers. Since there were not trained soldiers, George Washington had to train his troops. Many of them were as young as 14 years old. He also had to make decisions such as whether to use slaves or not, but he decided not to use slaves. The British took the slaves, and if the slaves fought for the British, they would guarantee their freedom. The British also had many allies with the Indians. This caused many of them to come on the British side. After the British got more people to fight for them, they marched to Canada and attacked the Americans. Then George Washington moved his troops to New York to attack the British. Spain also allied with the Patriots along with other individual officers from other countries such as Poland. Their foreign allies supplied them of the things they were lacking, and the Patriots headed off to stay in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. 1/4 of the soldiers died that winter, and the Patriots began to weaken until Baron Frederick von Steuben came and properly trained the American troops. The French also helped by entering their navy into the war. The new American Navy seized Nassau, Britain's supply base, and then went after the British supply ships. John Paul Jones was a member of the American Navy and was given 7 vessels to command that he named Bonhomme Richard. John Paul Jones led his people to take down Superus, a British ship. The colonists had only used less than 100 of their ships over the course of the war, but Britain had used more than 200 ships to the small but effective American Navy. After British victories in Canada and New York, English General Howe was confident and sent troops home for Christmas and New Year's and stayed in New York while leaving New Jersey in the hands of the Hessians, mercenaries hired by the British.
While the Hessians were in charge, Washington decided to send in troops during this time at night to sneak attack the Hessians. They succeeded by capturing 900 Hessians at the cost of 5 Americans. The Battle of Trenton made the British want revenge, so when Washington moved his troops to Princeton, Britain planned a counterattack. However, their counterattack was not successful because the Patriots snuck away and attacked them from behind and defeated them. After losing at Trenton and Princeton, the British were embarrassed and changed their fighting methods and split up to meet in Albany, New York, and on the way captured back Fort Ticonderoga. After the win at Ticonderoga, Howe believed that Burgoyne no longer needed him, so he set off to Philadelphia to attack. He meets Washington's troops on September 11, 1777, for the Battle of Brandywine Creek. Howe could have crushed the Americans, but due to his hesitation, the Patriots fled. Burgoyne was not informed of the happenings in Pennsylvania, so he and his troops marched through New York. With his badly outnumbered troops, he clashed with the Patriots at the Battle of Saratoga. On October 17, 1777, Burgoyne formally surrendered to Gates. Saratoga marked the greatest victory up to that point for American forces. After winning at Saratoga, the French signed an alliance to the Patriots. Marquis de Lafayette is one of the French troops who gave some $200,000 in his own money to the Patriots.
After the American naval forces were successful, the war in Kentucky started. The forces were very organized in the battles. They had small battles with British ally soldiers. They won most of their battles, but one was really important. They destroyed the British trading villages. They faced many challenges along the way. They faced rapids and big mountains. They walked a long way and rafted a ways too. When they got closer, the leaders were standing on the riverbank surrendering. After they surrendered, the British attracted the slaves to their side so it could help them win in the battles. The British marched through the South and destroyed the Patriots' things so that they couldn't have better advantages in the war. Even though the British and the Patriots kept going through all the bad weather and bullets, the Patriots won the Battle of Yorktown. Even though they faced horrible conditions and many died, the Treaty of Paris was signed in 1783. The British accepted the Americans' rights to trade and settle wherever. After the Patriots won, Washington made an announcement. The citizens of America are acknowledged to be proposed of absolute freedom and independence.